6:04, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running. Brian here with you, John LaBeouf producing. We are starting you off at, 49 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. I'll take it. Seasonably appropriate cold. Got a big Tuesday show lined up for you. Got a lot of ground to cover. We're going to unpack a lot of Washington Mardi Gras throughout the day today. We are going to talk with State Rep Jack McFarland, who was up there. Of course, Congressman Troy Carter going to join us for D.C. Current, presented by LABI. We're also going to talk with Josiah Necley from the R Street Institute. Let's talk about climate change and executive orders. Let's also talk with Carolyn Hill. As the show wears on today, she's running for state senate in that special election in the 14th. And, Jeff Crouere. See if he's thawed out yet. But before we get to any of that, we start with top stories and trending.
Number 5.
Agencies across the country are working to modify their policies to comply with President Donald Trump's executive orders when it comes to immigration. Catholic Charities, Diocese of Baton Rouge, which assists immigrants, is adapting to new regulations as well. Stephanie Sterling is the executive director here in Baton Rouge, states that they've been striving to keep up with the new policies. They're planning to take whatever steps are necessary to make sure they accommodate them. We're probably going to talk about this story a lot more later on in the show.
Number 4.
Starting tomorrow, Louisiana will begin accepting state tax return filings. You can file your state income tax returns electronically through the Department of Revenue's website, or they are also, of course, still filed by mail.
Number 3.
DOTD is repairing and replacing thousands of reflectors that were damaged or scraped off the ground by snowplows that were clearing roads after the most recent snowfall, the most snowfall the Capital Region has seen in over 100 years. DOTD is hiring a contractor for the repairs, though no timeline or cost estimate has been provided.
Number 2.
Does EBR need to reconsider where they house inmates awaiting trial? Well, after murder suspect Christopher Davis was mistakenly dropped off at the Greyhound bus station by law enforcement from East Carroll Parish, which is where he was being housed awaiting his trial, which is coming up in March. A spokesperson for the sheriff's office says that's exactly what they're doing. Davis, by the way, was, of course, recaptured before the weekend was over.
Number 1.
A person was taken to a hospital Monday night around 7:30 p.m. after a shooting near the Delmont Gardens Branch Library at the corner of Lorraine Street and Longfellow Drive. BRPD said the victim was transported to a hospital but did not disclose their condition. All right, John, what you got?
All right. Well, Selena Gomez melts down on Instagram over the ICE raids, then takes her post down when comments says she appears out of touch. Meanwhile, when asked Borders czar Tom Homan says Gomez's comments were a mischaracterization of what's actually happening.
Yeah, well, because she was talking about their snatching up children, taking children away from their parents.
Which is not the case.
No, what they're doing is they're going after, and this is the exact wording of it, the worst of the worst.
Yes.
They're going after the worst criminals right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's at the top of their list. It's not the guy who, whatever, the family man who's here, whatever. I don't know. Regardless of the circumstances, it's illegals. It's first of all illegals who with criminal records at that.
With criminal records is a big part of that equation. The biggest part of that equation.
Absolutely.
Probably bigger than the illegal part.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not just like, Ugh.
By the way, Selena Gomez should know that the internet is not written in pencil. You can take your post down. That's great. But somebody's already screen grabbed it. Somebody's already rolled tape on it.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, speaking of screen grabs here, a Chinese AI advancement called DeepSeek is wreaking havoc on tech stocks in the U.S.
I want to learn more about this. We kind of need to tee up Haggai for Thursday.
Oh yeah,
because
definitely.
I don't know what they're doing or how they're doing it, and I don't understand. I don't understand the science behind it. So,
yeah, that's a good tee up.
Cup of Tech Gumbo coming up Thursday.
There you go. Hey, if you haven't already, you need to update your iPhone. Apple says that they have a patch out for the flaw in the release of the iOS 18.3 that left phones more vulnerable to hackers.
I updated mine yesterday.
Yeah,
How quickly do you do that? Yeah, because as soon as I see one, if I've got a couple minutes, I'll fire it right up. I don't want it waiting.
If I get the alert,
I have that paranoia of I don't want to go to bed and have it automatically update in the middle of the night and
Ooh.
then like not have my alarm go off in the morning.
Yeah.
You can't have that.
Much rather just do it manually.
No, just do it now.
Yeah.
Do it now. Get it over with. So, all right. We're at 6:10 at Talk 107.3 FM. We're actually running a minute or two ahead of schedule, but you know what? I actually need to take that minute or two to tell you about the folks over at Mathern's. They have got you covered throughout Carnival season. Mathern's is your home base for Mardi Gras in Baton Rouge. King Cakes, they got them. If you go to the Nicholson Drive location, the location that's on LSU's campus directly across the street from Tiger Stadium, walk in, look slightly to your right, about 1:30, 2 o'clock. You're going to see the giant Mardi Gras tree. Underneath that, you can't miss the display of King Cakes, and they've got all of them for you. They've got plain, they've got filled with whatever you want. You get the strawberry, the cheesecake, Bavarian cream. They've got you covered. And so many more. Oh, and by the way, if you want the fancy ones, I mean, like the really, like the full-on Cookie Monster, the wedding cake, they've got those as well. Need a gluten-free option? I believe they even have that. Mathern's has got you covered on the King Cake front. Now, fast forward to your Mardi Gras ball. Have you had your Mardi Gras ball yet? If not, Matherns.com is your home base for catering. Take a look at the more than 50 catering trays they have to offer. Yeah, you can bring some sandwiches if you want to. Yeah, you can bring chicken fingers if you want to. They have that available on their menu as well. But, you want to step it up. Maybe go boudin balls. Maybe go spicy lemon pepper wings. They've got you covered with the catering options over at Matherns.com. And then once it comes time for the parades to roll, Mathern's is downtown right along the route. Well, I guess technically they're one block off the route, nestled in between 3rd and 4th Street in downtown. Mathern's is not just between 3rd and 4th. They're in between Main and Laurel as well, closer to that Main Street side. So when Orion or Artemis turns on to 4th by the state capitol and makes their way back up, I believe the parade turns again at North Street to go up another 2 blocks. So technically Mathern's is 1 block off the route. But they are open and available throughout the parades. So whatever you were bringing to pregame for your parade going festivities, whatever you forgot, Mathern's has got you covered downtown. And for the Mardi Gras balls on the website and for the King Cakes over at Nicholson, it's Mathern's. 6:15, rolling over to 6:16 to talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane. Rolling right along. Oh, man. Y'all, eventually I will shake this cough. It's got to go away at some point. Oh, it's brutal. Sports time here at Talk 107.3 FM. Let's go ahead and start with what's to come tomorrow night. Big matchup slated. Wednesday, January 29th, 6 p.m. in the Maravich Assembly Center. LSU hosting the number one team in the nation. Auburn's coming to town, y'all. 5:30 p.m. on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. Pregame will begin with Chris Blair and John Brady on the call for that one. And you would think there wouldn't be that much hype surrounding this game because, well, LSU has one conference win and Auburn has like all of them. Auburn's the number one team in the country. You would think a lot of folks would be going into this game thinking, oh, LSU's going to get the floor. Auburn's going to mop the floor with LSU. Well, after what went down at Alabama on Saturday, there's a little bit more hype going into this one. There is definitely a little bit more belief that LSU might be able to do something on their home floor with the right crowd out there. So if you've not yet gotten your tickets for tomorrow night, it's going to be it should be a raucous environment over in the Maravich Assembly Center as the Tigers will play host to the number one Auburn Tigers. It's Auburn 18-1 on the season, 6-0 in conference play. They're just they're seemingly unbeatable, but LSU played within 7 of Alabama at Coleman Coliseum, and LSU never plays well at Coleman Coliseum. So, got to look out for Johnny Broome from Auburn. He leads Auburn in like all the statistics: points, rebounds, assists, blocks. I stand corrected. Tahad Pettiford leads in steals. Aside from that, it's all Johnny Broome. So tomorrow night at 6 on our sister station, Eagle 98.1, but get yourself a ticket, be in that number. Meanwhile, we go from basketball to baseball, the second-ranked LSU baseball team. Man, it's going to be a lot of a different look from last year. Completely different weekend rotation. Gage Jump, Luke Holman, Griffin Herring. There are a lot of pitchers who could pitch on the weekend, including Cade Anderson, sophomore left-hander from Madisonville, St. Paul. Appeared in 18 games last year, started half of them, went 4-2 with a 3.99 ERA. Anderson would be honored to have that Friday night starter role, or if he could, a bullpen role as well.
Growing up in Louisiana, it's kind of been my dream, and being the guy that Coach Johnson can go to right out the gate would be, really special. But I think that you got to win every game, and I truly mean that. If I have to close out the Tuesday night game, I'll be ready for it.
First baseman Jared Jones has the potential to lead the SEC in home runs this season. He put 28 of the balls out of the park last year. Comes back for his junior season to become more of a complete hitter overall.
Just another level of that, how much more can I walk? How many more extra base hits can I have? Moving the offense with 2 strikes, cutting down on my swing and miss. It's easier said than done. It's going to take a lot of work, but those are definitely, some of the things that I've highlighted.
Back to the bump, junior right-handed pitcher Gavin Guidry getting the number 8 jersey this year. That goes to an upperclassman who kind of exemplifies LSU baseball. Guidry says he's going to wear the number with pride, use this leadership position as an opportunity to lead by example.
It's not to be the leader or me to tell people what to do or make sure guys are looking at me. It's my job is to show up every day, not make excuses, show up every day and compete my tail off and set an example for the younger kids on what that looks like.
Guidry is going to be given the opportunity to start the season after pitching out of the bullpen for the last 2 years. 6:20, time for us to catch Fox Business Report here on Talk 107.3 FM. We come back, Speaker Mike Johnson kicking off the Republican Priorities Conference. We'll talk about it next. Let's go ahead and start you off on the interstates as we do. Got a little added volume coming on the downslope of the new bridge, the Horace Wilkinson I-10 Mississippi River Bridge. If you're coming from west to east, coming in from West Baton Rouge Parish, as you hit that downslope of the bridge, turning on a 10, you might have to tap the brakes a little bit. It's not real bad. Not enough to make you want to change your route or anything. Backing things up to the west side, we're looking good coming in until you get to that downslope. Meanwhile, over on I-12 westbound, we got a lot of volume coming in from all the way back to Denham Springs. If you run it all the way back to Range Avenue, you're going to find heavy volume, and then it's going to be intermittent volume around Millerville, around Airline, and then on the way in to the 1012 merge. I-10 I-10 westbound coming in from Ascension Parish is looking good. Surface streets downtown, look out. No, I'm sorry, this isn't downtown. Surface streets, we have an accident, Laurel at North 26th. At Eugene, isn't it? Yeah, Laurel at Eugene. Look out for an accident being worked right there. That's your look at traffic from the Shaw Bills Tire Traffic Center. .625, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along, holding at 49 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. We got ABC News coming your way about 5 minutes from right now, followed by our local news, traffic, weather. Then we're going to check in with Jeff Crouere, host of Ringside Politics down in New Orleans. Let's see if he's thawed out since last week's storm. I know Jeff took a snow day yesterday, snow day last Tuesday. We weren't able to have our normal weekly conversation, so pick his brain about what's going on down in New Orleans with less than 2 weeks to go until Super Bowl Sunday, which means really it's crunch time. It's go time. When you're the host city for the Super Bowl, it's not just about Super Bowl Sunday. It's now, partner. We'll check in with Jeff in our next segment. Right now, though, Republicans are meeting in Doral, Florida for the Republican Issues Conference, which would mean Speaker Mike Johnson will get a lot of attention paid, or at least he did when he hit the microphone yesterday at a press conference. Donald Trump was at the microphone with him, and he gave an offhanded comment that is causing, John, I was debating whether or not to add this one to what's trending. When Trump said yesterday, we've raised a lot of money for the next race that I assume I can't use for myself because I think I'm not allowed to run again. Not sure. Am I allowed to run again, Mike? Talking to Mike Johnson. He's like, no, not going to bring you into that argument. It's one of those offhanded Trump having fun conversations and whatnot. And a lot of backlash over it. A lot of, sure. I told you he was going to go for a third term. Yeah, I told you he wants to be a dictator. So good.
But isn't that like Trump, though, just to kind of dig into that?
Oh, God, yes.
Like, oh, okay.
Oh, yes.
That's what it is.
So good. Let's talk a little bit about a few Republican issues. One of the topics that Mike Johnson addressed was getting aid out to California and whether or not that was going to be conditional aid. Like, we will provide you with relief from the wildfires if you do X, Y, and Z. Johnson talked about that.
We've talked about conditioning the aid that will go there to policy changes. I think that is a common sense notion that is supported by the vast majority of the American people who do not want to subsidize crazy California leftist policies.
I'm torn on this because on the one hand, you have to take care of Americans, regardless of policy. When the president is sworn in, when Congress is sworn in to serve all of America, not just those that agree with him. It's difficult to say, I'm going to provide relief for Americans, provided they do what I tell them. The money has to be for Americans. The relief has to be for Americans, not a carrot on a stick. Now, let's flip this around. What policies are you talking about here? If you're talking about policies that are specifically going to be implemented to help mitigate a future disaster, now you got something different here. And now you've got something that's applicable no matter where you're at. Because whatever we do out in California for wildfires, I would expect it to be done to us here in Louisiana for hurricanes. And I'm darn sure don't want to be held accountable to D.C. for something that my legislators may or may not get done in order to kowtow to what Washington wants at that particular time. I'm not comfortable with the precedent being set saying that, well, yeah, sure, you're an American. These are your tax dollars. I can't give them back to you unless you meet this punch list first. This is one of those ones where whatever policy changes are being proposed, I'd probably agree with the policy changes. But the precedent being set by saying that we're not Americans anymore, we're not entitled to our own tax dollars, our own relief anymore, unless we're able to jump through the hoops that Washington at the time wants. And I'm not thinking about having Louisiana's own Mike Johnson as speaker and Donald Trump as president. I'm thinking of what happens 4 years from now, 8 years from now, when it's possibly a different party in charge. When the other side has the reins, what do I want to have to capitulate to? But going back to the top of the page, you know what, John, we're going to have to put these rest of the cuts off to another segment. Going back to the top of the page, if the policy changes that are being proposed would help mitigate the next disaster, I can't see a reason to not be on board with that. If it remains that specific, if it remains within that realm, then thumbs up, yes. Otherwise, you've got to be Congress for all of America, not just those who you're forcing into agreeing with you. All right, it's 6:30. Here comes news. I have to go get the promotions page off of the printer. The cuts for 7:55, please push them back. I'm sorry, the cuts for 6:55, push them back to 7:55. I'm going to keep Crouere up to 6:50 if I can. And then we'll do the rest of the Johnson cuts at 6:55. Actually, I'm going to keep him until 49 and then do my Vex live read. No. Interesting. The shooting was not about a shoplifting incident, but that's what's being reported. Very interesting. Yeah, Galen and Keith, I've read the same things. But I don't. I want a better comprehension of what that technology is, and if it's so readily available, why isn't it readily available? Nobody copycats the rest of everybody like Silicon Valley. So why aren't we there? Keith says EBR needs a new prison. Yep. Everybody checking these couch cushions. Who's got $100 million? Maybe we can house the prisoners at the libraries. You're starting to repeat me. No, this was my idea a couple weeks ago. If we build a prison and put a bunch of books in it, can we call it a library and take it from their budget? If we build a prison and put a basketball court and a soccer field in the yard, can we call it a Breck Park and take from their budget? Seriously. I'm dead ass serious. Like, if it's going to be that hard for us to find money for the things we need when we're always able to find money for the things that we want, we need to start redefining shit. And yes, I would love to have a parish prison that doubles as a library and a Breck Park. And and tell you what, if the prisoners need to work while they're in there, let them package meals for the Council on Aging. We can borrow from their budget too. By the way, it's also not lost on me that somebody was shot in a library parking lot last night, and I've predicted that on numerous occasions. Yes, that's probably going to be the next one that gets blamed on me. Temperatures on their way back up. By how much? Well, here's WBRZ meteorologist Emma Cade Cowan. Ugh. .638 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Yes, we are at 49 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge to start off your morning. Last week at this time it was significantly colder. Joining us now from down in New Orleans, we got Jeff Crouere on with us. Jeff, how are you, man?
Hey, good morning, Brian.
Good morning. You thawed out yet?
Man, I think it was 10.2 inches.
Goodness
we
gracious.
had. I mean, it was a literal blizzard. It was a blizzard. It was amazing. I mean, something that comes every 130 years.
Thereabouts.
It matched the 1895 record.
Yeah,
amazing.
and then we're going to be up to like 80 on Saturday. It's so.
I know.
Yeah, it's all over the dadgum place. Let's talk for just a second about how New Orleans did to recover, because it was slow going to get the airport open, slow going to get interstates open. From the inside looking out, what were your takeaways about recovery and reopening?
Yeah, very slow to get the I-10 open. There's been boil water alerts now for days. You've had the mayor AWOL, really don't see the mayor, don't know what the mayor is doing, and we still haven't gotten to the bottom of the terror attack, so that's still out there as far as an investigation, and that's going to be ongoing, and then we've got the Super Bowl we're trying to get ready for, and that's moving full steam ahead. So there's a lot going on, a lot of investigations that need to be completed. And, got a mayor's race going on right now, and you got a leading candidate who is scaring off challengers.
Okay, so much to unpack here. Let's start with the terrorist. What's left to investigate? Which questions are unanswered here?
Well, I mean, you've got multiple investigations that have been started, and it's going to take a while to conclude them. And, there are a lot of folks that are invested in the police chief that have been defending her and saying it's not her fault.
Okay.
And, pointing fingers at the mayor and her administration and the head of Department of Homeland Security. I tend to think, there are no clean hands here.
Yeah.
You've got failures at all levels. I was yesterday at Bourbon and Canal, and I noticed there's a big dump truck there blocking it. And, if only they would have thought of that a few weeks ago, then we wouldn't have had this whole disaster.
Yeah.
So,
if nothing else, points for not making the same mistake twice.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I know that sounds so callous to say it that way, but it's, when has Louisiana shown in the past that we can't be taught?
Mm-hmm.
So, you talk about you said it's you're getting ready for the Super Bowl. Jeff, it's here, man. The arrivals are starting right now. The added flights are starting right now. It's not just about Super Bowl Sunday. Things are hotel rooms are filling up this week.
Oh, you're right. You're exactly right. And a friend of mine from Kansas City is looking for a hotel room, trying to figure out where he's going. He said the prices are skyrocketing. So of course, you've got people, some making last minute plans to come on down. And you're right. Everything's happening. You've got the NFL experience and everything. The parties and you're right. But they're still rushing to complete street construction. You've got street crews out there all over the CBD trying to finish last minute projects. They're working, right up a Carondelet as we speak. They're trying to get everything done. But you're right. You got people that are already here.
Back when we were in school, at a certain point, the proctor giving the exam would say pencils down. New Orleans needs to be at pencils down right now.
Right. I think they're probably still going to be out there working on street projects for the next few days. Of course, you look back and you say, boy, that should have been done months ago, right?
Yeah.
But heck, it's New Orleans, so that doesn't happen. But, yeah, there should be a massive crowd in here. Obviously, we've had big news over the past few weeks, from the terror attack to the blizzard. And, hopefully this time the lights will not go out in the Superdome. I had to laugh reading a, report on that incident. And I'm thinking, again, this happened nowhere else. It's not happened at a Super Bowl other than the one here back in 2013. So,
well, I still say that was Beyonce's fault. I still say that was Beyonce's fault, and inadvertently that began the downfall of Colin Kaepernick's career. Think about it. If the lights don't go out, San Francisco doesn't lose their momentum. If San Francisco doesn't lose their momentum, Baltimore doesn't come back to win that thing, and Colin Kaepernick has no reason to protest.
Right. Colin Kaepernick's a different guy, right?
Completely different guy. He's a Super Bowl winner. He's standing for every anthem. Right.
And he was just never the same after that. You're exactly right.
We can pin it on the anthem, pin it on the kneeling down, but I'm telling you, when Beyonce knocked the lights out, she knocked Colin Kaepernick out as well. Right. We got Jeff Crouere with us for a couple more minutes.
Now, Valerie Hodges, by the way, is putting together, pressure to try to clean up the Super Bowl entertainment for halftime.
God bless her. That's her. I got the email as well. I saw it, and I saw the way the news story reported as well. I guess. This is something that is not going to be. I don't know. The halftime show is going to be on national television. which means it has to adhere to the standards and practices of the FCC. So whatever you want as far as family-friendly is concerned, that's what it's going to be connected to, is those standards.
And I guess she's seen that over the past few years and says, we need to make sure that this Super Bowl halftime show is a higher caliber. But good luck. I mean, Jay-Z, I guess, is still producing it and involved in it. So, I don't have much faith in him producing anything that's family-friendly. So we'll see. I remember being on the couch with my little one when, Justin Timberlake pulled off the top of Janet Jackson, and we were unfortunately watching TV while that was going on.
I mean, and think about how long ago that was. The quote unquote wardrobe malfunction,
right?
Which
that was 21 years ago.
Yeah, I mean that's a long time ago for that one. It was, and to this day, I can't be convinced that it was, it wasn't 100% intentional.
Right.
It was not a malfunction by any stretch of the imagination. It coincided with the actual lyrics that said, "I'm going to have you naked" at the end of this song.
Right, exactly. I'm just trying to think how either one of them thought that would be good for their careers.
No,
but
I know. It's
got a lot of publicity.
We got Jeff Crouere on with us for a couple more minutes. Okay, I wanted to talk about the boil orders in following the snowstorm and everything, but you mentioned something right along the way where you said we have a mayoral candidate who's kind of strong-arming other candidates out of the race. Tell me what's happening there.
Well, the leading candidate is Helena Moreno, and she is in a strong position because she has raised a lot of money, been accumulating endorsements. And, from talking to insiders yesterday, I mean, a lot of potential candidates are not running. Usually when you have an open mayor's seat in New Orleans, you have a massive field. And I just don't think that's going to be the case this year. She has really started early. She's raised a lot of money, and she's the leading candidate. So the big question is, will Oliver Thomas, the council member, run? And if he doesn't run, she might not even have a major opponent.
Wow. I mean, you think about the state that New Orleans is in right now and the quality of the city that it is and the quality of the city that it can be. Y'all deserve a battle royale.
Right.
I mean, y'all deserve like a dozen folks getting in, the best and the brightest getting in there to say, I want to give this city the same amount of love and attention that the governor has.
Right. But it's a function of money. And if these candidates can't raise the money, like Royce DePlessis, I mean, they're not going to jump in. You do have sort of a perennial candidate, a judge, Arthur Hunter, who is going to run, but he is not a super serious candidate. And then, if Oliver Thomas decides not to run and he's going to make his decision in a few weeks, then, I mean, she's got the field to herself, and, it'll be a slam dunk for her. So it'll be very interesting over the next few weeks to see what Oliver Thomas decides to do and to see if there is some kind of a, surprise candidate that'll jump in. I agree with you. I love big races where you have lots of candidates and, a big choice. But when you have limited funds and a candidate that's been planning this for a long time and got a lot of support, it's intimidating to other candidates.
Unreal. He is Jeff Crouere, host of Ringside Politics. I know you're 10 minutes away from a show. I always appreciate the time. We'll pick this conversation up right where we left it off next week, brother.
All right, Brian.
All right,
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Thank you. Absolutely. That is a sad state of affairs if that's the way that plays out. New Orleans deserves better than that. 100%. We got Your Money Now coming your way in exactly 1 minute. Got to remind you about the folks over at Vex European. You know where to find them. 6265 Benefit Drive. That's kind of the back section of the Industrialplex area. Vex European is here for you if you own a European vehicle, okay? If you drive an Audi, if you drive a Land Rover, if you drive a Mercedes, a Jaguar, a Porsche, if you drive a BMW, if you drive a Bentley, they're here for you with a master-level, expert-level technician for your make of vehicle. They will pair you with that technician who will stay with you and your vehicle to get to know your vehicle. By the way, Vinny and his team over at Vex European, Vex with a V, Vinny and his team, They're celebrating their 10th anniversary this year. They started out servicing just the exotics, the Ferraris and Lamborghinis of the world, but have broadened out since then. 10 years worth of expertise put into this. Check them out online at vexeuropean.com, vexeuropean.com. And while you're there, check on the specials. If you've never been before, you could save $100 off any price repair or maintenance that runs you $199 or more. They got first-time offers, whole lot going on. Started off at vexeuropean.com. Here's your money now. What was that? That was on their end.
Yeah, that was coming from their side. Really strange.
Brad says precedent for withholding money until conditions are met were set a long time ago. I remember the federal government withholding money for roads until Louisiana ended rooster fighting. It's chicken boxing. No, okay, I don't know if they're still posted up, but Michelle Southern from Eagle 98.1 had the Only in Louisiana podcast, and she had an episode on chicken boxing. Now, yes, you are correct in that they withheld money for roads, not just for the chicken boxing, rooster fighting, whatever, but also for us to raise our drinking age from 18 to 21. But the key difference here, who posted this? It's a great comment, by the way. Brad, the key difference here, these are emergency funds, not just the standard funding that we bleed off the government teat. We suck off the government teat on a regular basis. These are emergency funds. To me, that makes all the difference. Brad says at least the conditions they want tied to this money have something to do with the problem. Have they stated the conditions? For the bumper, keep it running underneath. I got to do a promo here. See, okay, so Brad, you're right friggin' on point, man. You're like, okay. I made that disclaimer when I was doing the segment. I said, provided that the contingencies, that punch list that they got to fulfill helps mitigate future disasters, I can get on board with that. But, man, the idea of saying when Americans are hurting, when Americans are in need, can you imagine? Okay, take the whole cockfighting thing and imagine if that were in Hurricane Katrina relief. You know, if you're holding, you see how I'm saying it's different with emergency dollars? Talk 107.3 and Citizens Bank and Trust want to help cover your car payments. It's a $5,000 cash prize. I'm sorry, a $5,000 grand prize with a bonus chance to win a free car washes from Benny's Car Wash for 6 months. We're also letting you earn extra entries by subscribing to our Talk 107.3 Baton Rouge YouTube channel. To sign up, visit talk1073.com if you want to get your car payments taken care of, courtesy of Talk 107.3 and Citizens Bank and Trust. 655 Talk 107, 656 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. ABC News coming your way in just a little bit. I want to get back into the Republican Issues Conference. We were talking in the 2 segments ago before we had Jeff Crouere on with us about Speaker Mike Johnson, Louisiana's own Mike Johnson, taken to the microphone yesterday to talk about a few of the things that are going to be covered in the Issues Conference. You got to look abroad. Let's talk a little bit about sanctions on when it comes to America's foreign adversaries. How tough are we going to be when it comes to just dropping the hammer on an American first agenda playing out worldwide? Cut 2, please.
We will engage with sanctions or any other measures that are appropriate to back up the president's agenda.
And that's not just, we're not just talking about active enemies here. Johnson went on to elaborate talking about tariffs and how they would affect prices back home, because when you do have policies like what the president is touting, you also have potential repercussions there as well.
Which tariffs will be enacted and how it will affect prices, we'll have to see. I think you're seeing a measured approach by the president. Tariffs clearly is going to be a part of the policy agenda from the White House.
Last one from Mike Johnson from yesterday before we have to close out and head up to ABC News here at the top of the hour. Let's talk about FEMA. FEMA has been talked about a little bit when it comes to President Trump. And you look at how do you fix this thing. FEMA has gone from the Federal Emergency Management Agency to the Federal Everything Management Agency. And it's not running as efficiently as it should be. It doesn't help in a timely manner the way it should. We all got a firsthand experience with it after Katrina when we had the trailers. Hell, the folks in North Carolina are still suffering right now, and they don't even get the FEMA trailers. Some of them are making their way up there now. And FEMA, has got to be split between emergencies on the East Coast and West Coast. FEMA's got to be split between every emergency that pops up. So what do you do with a problem like FEMA?
There's been a lot of frustration, of course, over the last 4 years with how FEMA's been handled, and I think the president is right to assess that.
Was reading a story yesterday talking about how the president might want to put together a task force to take a deep dive into it, and hopefully, scrub all the way through FEMA, find out what the actual problems are and how to right the wrongs. We've got the perfect guy for that. I don't know that he's working right now. He's been out of work for about 3 weeks. Former Congressman Garrett Graves would be the absolute right pick to fix FEMA. Now, as his term was ending, I had asked him if he wanted to be the head of FEMA. He said absolutely not, because he wouldn't have the power to control the things needed to control. But man, can you imagine him, Garrett Graves, as the head of a task force that would have, let's say, okay, Garrett, here you go. Here's your marching orders. You have 1 year to fix FEMA. Go. Can you imagine a better candidate for that job than our own former Congressman Garrett Graves? between his work with CPRA, between his work as a congressman, between his work in his different committee assignments in Washington, D.C., and having to deal up close and personal with FEMA over that decade where he served us in D.C. Oh, the perfect candidate for that gig. 7 o'clock, hour two's next. What you say, Rich?
What's up? Hey, BH, cut in half. Don't kill it, just swing it. Come on, baby. What's up, BH? I miss you, brother. How was the blues and the festivities?
Oh,
had any guys tossing quarters with flambos?
No flambos.
Damn it.
I could go for flambos. Spinning around, the fuels.
You need to calm down. Babe, look. I'm only doing it because I'm throwing it away. That's all.
Okay.
Now, babe, I mean, if you want, you can play it, but that's the audio. That's today when LSU broke the single game regular season record against Georgetown. When they upset number 2 Georgetown
In the dome? I was there.
Yeah, that with Ricky Blanton put it back
Yeah.
up. So they set the record 36 years ago today, and then this is the current record.
Jeez, that's not getting broken ever.
No, that's what I'm saying. So I don't know if you need it, want it. It's up to you.
Oh, I'm gonna use it. Yeah. Yeah, I remember Dale Brown coming to Mandeville, handing out tickets to the whole Biddy Basketball League. That's
That's cool.
Yeah.
Tiger Tots. You remember who Tiger Tots?
Yes.
That was good stuff, man. Guys, those
So,
were great years.
follow up to that. My daughter plays against Blanton's daughter now.
Now wait, one daughter goes to St. Michael. She's a great volleyball. His son's a great left-handed pitcher in Durham.
Yeah.
Where's the other one go?
St. George.
Okay, St. George.
Sienna. I think they call her Peanut.
His son's a incredible left-handed pitcher.
He's a great dude.
No, they don't get any better than
I know.
that.
I
But
know.
his daddy works out at the gym, and we talk all the time. His daddy's such a good dude, man. His dad's awesome. His head is, man. His dad's just
Yeah, it was. So up until 5th grade, he was coaching them, and like I'm coaching Mercy's team, and he's coaching St. George's team, and my poor girls were like, I made the mistake of mentioning who he was. They're like, their coach is tall. I'm like, doesn't matter, he can't play. I was like, but just for the record, that guy's been in the Final Four in the NBA. And they get all scared. I'm like, he can't play. He's the coach.
Yeah, he never put up the numbers I did on the North Shore.
Damn right. Damn right.
Hey, babe, no big deal. It's also Hutchins. He turned 58 today. Tommy.
Oh, cool. Okay. Thank you, Rich. Nothing at all. You thought we were fighting? Yeah. My voice is barely here. I'm still on a post-DC. Yeah. A little more than that. It depends on when you were asking. If you're like, as Friday wore on, everybody started getting into town on Friday. A lot of people came just for the big ball on Saturday night. So, but yeah, there were people that showed up at, like on Saturday morning to stay one night. Yeah. Who was that? Andrew, yeah. 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 And, oh, cool. Yeah. Andrew comes on every once in a while during the session. We helped him get a piece of legislation passed last year. Yeah, about being able to cut a check to home improvements for seniors who want to stay independent. Like you need to put in a handrail to like that sort of thing. Yeah, it was smart legislation. .705 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing, dipping all the way down to 48 degrees. On our way up to 65 today. Oh, gross. I just can't. I can't with this weather, John. All right. We got a busy hour coming your way this hour. State Representative Jack McFarland just got home from Washington, D.C. I know. I saw him up there. I want to recap his Washington Mardi Gras experience, as there's just so much that goes on. So many conversations had, so many great ideas get launched at Washington Mardi Gras. And Representative McFarland was one of the guys that I was having, I had a conversation with while I was there. And that was one of the conversations where it started to become clear that the overall goal for a Jeff Landry governorship or for his first term ought to be bringing back a 7th congressional seat to the state of Louisiana. I know, it's huge. That's a ginormous ask. That's a moonshot of an ask for a governor. But where we're at right now with everybody in line over at LED, with the job that Susan Bourgeois is already doing, with the state legislature that we have lined up right now and where we could be headed, I don't think it's an unreasonable ask. It's a big ask, but not an unreasonable ask. So we'll talk with Representative McFarland about his Washington Mardi Gras experience. Also this hour, let's talk about executive orders from President Trump and how they will affect climate change. Interesting thing about global warming, it's global. How much can one man do from one chair at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue if the rest of the world isn't playing by the same set of rules that we are? We'll talk about that with Josiah Necley from the R Street Institute. That's coming up at 7:35. Right now, though, we start off with top stories and trending.
Number 5.
Family members of a man who was shot to death over the weekend are adding their voices to an unending chorus of people in Baton Rouge begging for an end to gun violence within the city. Relatives of Carvel St. Cyr said their family's taking this loss hard. 22-year-old man was found dead on Blackberry Street around 11:15 p.m. on Saturday. Family members were saying that it's hard to believe their cousin's gone. Wish they had the chance to save him, but they said that people need to find a way to resolve problems without guns. Just the latest in the chorus that has been Baton Rouge.
Number 4.
Starting tomorrow, Louisiana will begin accepting state tax return filings. You can file your state income taxes electronically through Louisiana Department of Revenue's website, or, of course, they do still accept them by mail.
Number 3.
DOTD is repairing and replacing thousands of reflectors that were either damaged or scraped off the roads during last week's snowstorms. We brought in the snow plows, and as the snow plows scraped the roads to get them back up to where we could drive on them, and obviously they were out there to do their job, and they did their job. Well, there were some unintended consequences of a 100-year snowstorm. DOTD is hiring a contractor for the repairs. No timeline or cost estimate has been provided.
Number 2.
Does EBR need to reconsider where they house inmates awaiting trial? Well, after murder suspect Christopher Davis was mistakenly dropped off at the Greyhound bus station by law enforcement from East Carroll Parish, where he was being housed until his trial, which was set for March. Well, after he was mistakenly dropped off, a spokesperson for the sheriff's office says that's exactly what they're doing, is reconsidering. Davis, by the way, was recaptured before the weekend was over.
Number 1.
A person was taken to the hospital last night around 7:30 p.m. after a shooting near the Delmont Gardens Branch Library at the corner of Lorraine Street and Longfellow Drive. BRPD said the victim was transported to a hospital, did not disclose their condition. What's trending, John?
Well, Selena Gomez melts down on Instagram over the ICE raids and then takes her post down when comments say she appears out of touch. Meanwhile, when asked border czar Tom Homan says Gomez's comments were a mischaracterization of what's actually happening.
So I saw the video once, and when I saw it, it was
Yeah.
completely out of context from everything else. I actually saw it as wrapped up in a stitched TikTok. But she was talking about, like, snatching up children.
Yeah.
And that's not what's happening.
I'm sorry. You know, what's happening to my people. And that's just
Well, your people, no, these aren't your people.
right.
They're going out and they're rounding up the quote-unquote worst of the worst. They're rounding up criminals. They're rounding up those who have police records.
That's right.
And are here illegally.
Yes.
So, no.
So
No
illegals
one's-
with criminal records.
Right.
Yeah. It's not just, you know,
Yeah.
the guy down the street with the taco stand and like whatever. No, these are illegal criminals.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
oh,
So,
man.
Now, there might be more to come later on where she would have legitimate beef, but that's just not right now.
Nope. Hey, a Chinese AI advancement called DeepSeek is wreaking havoc on tech stocks in the U.S.
Yep. Get ready for it. Thursday morning, 6:35. Haggai
Yeah.
Davison for, I got to check with Haggai to make sure he's in this week. Cup of
Hope
Tech
so,
Gumbo
hope so.
coming your way Thursday at 6:35. I want to learn all about this. I know what's being reported right now. I know what's in the news right now. I read about it. BRC had a story on it yesterday. Daily Report had a story on it yesterday. But I want to get a little bit deeper into the science of what's actually there right now.
Right, because it performs the same as like Chat GPT, right? Just for
But like on a much greater scale
Yes.
for a lower cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, we'll dig into that more at a greater length on Thursday.
Hey, speaking of tech, if you haven't already, you need to update your iPhone.
Yeah.
Apple says they have a patch out for the flaw in the release of the iOS 18.3 that left phones more vulnerable to hackers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I ran my update
those
yesterday.
phones. Yeah.
My watch updated yesterday, too, and now I can't get my pictures back on my watch.
Oh, man.
I know.
See, I hate when that happens.
I know. It's like, I don't really. So you could set like a home picture for your watch,
Right.
and I had it rotating between 3 different pictures. 2 were of my family, and 1 was of Rocco serving me a po' boy in studio. I know.
You get
stupid.
3 pictures.
I
You get
know.
3
I get 3
That's-
pictures,
that's
and I had
funny.
Rocco in the mix for
That's
sure.
hilarious.
By the way, if we're teasing what's to come later on the week, I believe Rocco is slated for Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
There we go.
Oh, it's been too long.
Get to discuss the DeepSeek on Thursday, and then go into the weekend with Rocco. on
Yep.
Friday.
We go from
hey, there
deep,
we go.
deep seek to deep sandwich.
Yeah.
It's 7:12 at Talk 107.3 FM. Of course, top stories and trending. Brought to you by the Baton Rouge Metro Airport. FlyBTR.com is the website. FlyBTR.com if you needed to make your reservations or reserve your flight. Actually, if you are looking at that round-trip flight to Washington, D.C., the direct flight to Washington, D.C., FlyBTR2DC.com is still up and running. Let your business take the pledge. Let yourself take the pledge to fly direct to Washington from right here in Baton Rouge. It lands at Reagan National Airport, takes off from Reagan National Airport. Could not be more convenient to get your work done same day if necessary. If you want to fly out in the morning, fly home the same evening, that's great. If you want to make a reservation to stay overnight, that's fine too. But you can get it all done from right here in your backyard from the Baton Rouge Metro Airport. FlyBTR.com. I've got another promo. Talk 107.3 is now on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel at Talk 107.3 Baton Rouge right now. All subscribers will be eligible to win tickets to see A Night of Comedy with Jim Gaffigan and Sebastian Maniscalco Thursday, February 20th at the Smoothie King Center down in New Orleans. Watch and subscribe today at the Talk 107.3 Baton Rouge YouTube channel. So last week, we had the snowstorm roll through. Most snow we've seen in over 100 years. Then everybody had to fight to find flights, fight to make their way up to our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., for the annual tradition that is Washington Mardi Gras. While I was up there, I ran into State Representative Jack McFarland. He's on the hotline right now. How are you, sir?
Doing good, Brian. Glad to be back in Baton Rouge.
Glad to have you on this morning. Let's unpack a little bit about Washington Mardi Gras. First of all, from a state representative's perspective, because I know it's going to be different for, it's different for business owners, different for philanthropists, different for lowly radio hosts. From a state representative's perspective, what's your Washington Mardi Gras look like?
A lot of meetings, Brian. We actually have an opportunity to get everyone in the room together, and that's rare. Often when you want to meet with your congressional delegate, you have to wait until you can schedule a time on the calendar, but you can get everyone in the room all at once.
Go ahead.
It starts early in the morning. I think my first meetings every day were around 7 a.m., and it would go that way until mid-afternoon, and then the evening's events would start.
So when talking about the meetings, State Representative Jack McFarland's with us. When talking about these meetings, it's hard for folks to comprehend. When they hear Washington Mardi Gras, they just think big party because it's Mardi Gras, right? But when talking about these meetings, they're very, I don't want to say informal, but I don't understand the science behind how everything that gets done or everything that gets launched up there. So if you wouldn't mind, run me through, just give me a couple, 2-3 examples of meetings that you had along the way that are launching things that are going to be on your agenda for the upcoming legislative session.
Well, one of the things we're able to do is, for an example, our higher education. I was able to meet with multiple legislators, a higher education institute, and our congressional leaders all together. Mm-hmm. And Brian, that's difficult to schedule in Baton Rouge. Yeah. Because the congressional leaders are in D.C. so much. So to have everyone in one city, in one place, it's just so convenient and have that conversation and solve whatever the issue is in one time.
If you don't mind sharing, what were some of the major issues with higher ed right now?
Well, for an example, I had a great conversation with the LSU Med School in Shreveport. Mm-hmm. We had a meeting with our senators. We were all in the room together. We're discussing, the opportunities for research and development. We've expanded the med school, made a significant investment the last few years to increase the number of med school students. We have a lot of doctors that have left the rural areas in Louisiana, and we need to replace those. And the best way to do that is to expand our med school and create those additional research opportunities to bring the best teachers and doctors we can. And that funding comes from the state and the federal level. So to be able to have that type of meeting is important.
No, absolutely. And it's one of those things that, like you said, if you're trying to get everybody back into Baton Rouge at one time for that one particular meeting, it's just so much tougher to schedule. The fact that so many things combine into one up in Washington is what makes it makes the whole greater than the sum of its parts. Talk with State Representative Jack McFarland. about Washington Mardi Gras. All right, Representative McFarland, you and I had a little conversation while we were up there as well, a lot less formal, but it was about kind of the momentum heading in to Jeff Landry's second year. What are you most looking forward to here, and what kind of progress do you think can be made in the upcoming legislative session?
Well, Brian, we just come out of a tax and we'll have an opportunity or begin seeing what the public's opinion is of that.
Mm-hmm.
We have multiple items that will be on the ballot March the 29th. That's when we'll see what the public's opinion is, because they'll have an opportunity to vote on many of those amendments that will affect personal income tax, teachers, a multitude of things. We'll also have another opportunity to address some of this insurance crisis that we've been dealing with for the last few years. So it's going to be another good session and busy session.
Absolutely. And I mean, it will be a fiscal session as well, which kind of limits to 5 the number of non-fiscal bills that will be out there. But one of the things that I picked up on, Representative McFarland, was the overall want to continue to reduce our tax burden. And it normally, if you go to Washington Mardi Gras, you get a better idea of how that's going to be attacked. But like you mentioned, there's 2 constitutional amendments coming up. I believe it's just 2 on the March 29th ballot that y'all are stuck to know which direction to head until you know whether or not Louisiana signs off on these constitutional amendments in March.
That's correct, Brian. Until the voters give their approval for us to move forward and advance in this direction, we're just sitting here waiting. I mean, obviously we're planning for a scenario where the voters don't approve, but I'm very optimistic. I believe we put together a tax package that's going to be presented to the voters that they will be supportive of.
Mm-hmm.
I believe everyone's been asking for lower personal income taxes, and I think that now is an opportunity for them to get to advance their request, making teacher pay raises permanent, not temporary, eliminating some teacher retirement debt. These are all things that the public are telling us that they want good fiscal responsible government.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I'm optimistic that if everything passes, we'll have. It may take a year to see the fruits of this, and there may be additional opportunities to lower our income taxes even more.
A lot of it does start with the constitutional amendments, though. I mean, the work y'all got done in the last session, you did reduce the income tax, but the trade-off was bumping up the sales tax a little bit, which at the end of the day puts more of my tax burden in my own hands because I have the decision whether or not I want to, spend and pay sales tax on things. Whereas when it comes to my income, I have no decision on that front. So let's walk down both scenarios real quick. If voters sign off on the constitutional amendments that allow y'all to rewrite Article 7 of our state constitution, or revamp it, I should say, is the general consensus that if you all get the go-ahead, everyone is going to get a haircut on spending there?
Look, I think that every agency that is being asked to present their budgets, the governor's already stated he's asking for a standstill budget.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that we're in a good position, and what we're doing is positioning ourselves for a worst-case scenario. If, let's just say the amendments are not approved, then we have to be prepared for a standstill budget or less. I think that regardless of what our revenue is, we should always be looking for efficiencies and streamlining in government. Now that we have a new administration, that the budget from last year was presented, that was actually a budget that was put together by the previous administration that the new administration had to present. Well, this year will actually be what I would say is Governor Landry's and his administration's first budget presentation. Now, obviously, with the tax structural changes that we've made, it's even creating a little more uncertainty. But, Brian, look, I'm very optimistic that the state's going to be in a good position. You're not going to see programs eliminated or cut, but we will be looking for efficiencies in those programs and how we can better streamline those services to the public.
We got State Representative Jack McFarland with us for a couple more minutes. I jumped ahead to get to the next legislative session. Representative McFarland, let's take it back to D.C. real quick. What was your biggest highlight of this year's festivities?
You know, Brian, I don't want to be negative about everybody's unfortunate snowstorm and not being able to get their flights out. Obviously, in North Louisiana, we didn't get any snow,
right.
And so we were able to fly out, get there on time. And there were less people this year, and it made the ability to get around and to walk through all the buildings, specifically like the Hilton. Historically, the last few years, it's been shoulder to shoulder, difficult to get from one meeting to the next. This year, we were able to move expediently. It was not congested. You could get down the hallways. You know, the venue at the Hilton is wonderful, but often the last few years I've been like, man, we need a larger venue. But this year, because so many people could not get there until Friday, that Wednesday and Thursday and Friday morning meetings, it was just much easier to get around. Now, Friday night, by the time the balls got here Friday and Saturday night, many people had already got their flights out and were able to be there. And you could tell that everyone was finally there for that last not 2 nights and 1 full day. But during the week, it was just a lot less congestion and a lot of the ability to get around.
Yeah, the difference in the lobby between Thursday and Friday was, I mean, the difference between, Canal Street on Mardi Gras Day versus Canal Street today. You know, Friday was a heck of a lot more packed. And, yeah, you could definitely tell when runways got de-iced for sure. In the meanwhile, I always appreciate the time. The last one before I get you out of here, and I want to go back to it kind of ties in the legislative session with Washington Mardi Gras, is as a representative, what do you do to take all the meetings that you had while there and form them from conversations into actual plans? What are next steps walking us up to the legislative session?
So, Brian, one of the meetings I had while there was with the Fiscal Responsibility Program. I met with Steve Orlando, who's going to be chairman of that program that the governor put together. Matter of fact, we're following up today. From that meeting last Thursday and Friday, we met actually multiple times. I'm traveling to Baton Rouge this morning for another meeting today with he and the governor and others, and we're going to keep pressing forward. But it gave us an opportunity to pass some ideas around and just start laying a foundation of what we would like to see develop from this. And additionally, from my meetings with the chancellor of the med school, my meetings with some of the lobbyists about opportunities that they would like that they're advancing or supporting for their clients, to just the meetings I've had with our congressional leaders about funding for the state of Louisiana, specifically as it relates to DOTD and additional funding opportunities there, the match dollars required from the state, all that's coming into play, and those meetings will continue to follow.
And we will continue to follow up as well as we approach the legislative session. He is State Representative Jack McFarland. Great seeing you last week, and I appreciate the time and information as always, sir.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Absolutely. It's he's right about how crowded it gets. Unique in the way it's been evolving from there, though, because the Washington Hilton is the home base. All right. but more and more meetings have been happening kind of quote unquote off campus. And it's its own cool little evolution in and of itself. But he's right about you slim down some of the numbers, and you can pay attention to quality over quantity for sure. 7:30. Here's news. Oh, transgender troops. That's what we're talking about these days. Yeah. I don't know how to talk about that without getting my ass in trouble. It's grab a gun and fight for America. I have a hard time telling you no. But if you're transgender, you've already told the world you know how to switch sides. So,
how dependable are you? You know what I mean? Like,
that's not my joke. That's a comedian named Ari Matty. Had that on the Kill Tony podcast. I effing love that joke.
And of course, speaking of comedy, for those listening, definitely be sure to, subscribe to the YouTube. Subscribe to YouTube.
Yeah. What I worry is if we start getting people watching on YouTube as well, me trying to manage comment sections on both.
Gosh, yeah.
I got to run to the printer real quick.
Studio. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you are. Okay. Yeah, I had your number down. I was actually going to call you. Yeah, no problem. We'll actually have you on. Give us about 3 minutes or so. All right. Thank you. All right. Josiah is on the line.
He called in?
Yep.
We didn't have to call him?
Nope.
That's awesome. Oh. And I stand corrected, Facebook. I said there were 2 constitutional amendments. I was talking specifically about that which would affect Article 7, because the other 2 are about... actually, you know what? Only one of them is about Article 7. The other is about Article 5. And then there's 2 about Article 5, 1 about Article 7, and 1 about... well, that's Article 5 as well. Anyway, when it comes to that which would affect how we make cuts in the state budget, there's only 1 constitutional amendment. I've got to get my settings straight to where I'm not printing things two-sided. I also have to remember my Twitter password. I can't log in on my new laptop. I've been logged in for 3 years on my old laptop. President Donald Trump puts pen to paper on a number of executive orders that may or may not be a big deal for climate change. We'll talk about that with Josiah Necley coming up in just a minute. Before that, though, appropriately enough, what's our forecast looking like? Here's WBRZ meteorologist Emma Kate Cowan. All 738 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We enter week 2 of the Trump presidency, and as executive orders are signed, there's of course a lot of reaction and counter reaction as well. A number of executive orders addressing a climate policy here in the United States of America. Withdrawing from the Paris Agreement would be one of them. There's a number of others as well. So are President Trump's actions an attack on climate progress? Joining us now from the R Street Institute is senior fellow Josiah Necley. Josiah, good morning. Welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am very well as well. So, side note, before we really get rolling here, I do love me some Low Energy Fridays. I take something away from every post that y'all have up. So I appreciate you hopping on board today.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we get to do a lot of interesting energy topics every week on Friday with our Low Energy Friday newsletter.
President Trump's executive orders, let's talk about them. Are they going to be as detrimental as the reaction or possible overreaction that we're seeing?
Yeah, I don't think so. So the first thing that needs to be kept in mind when we're talking about these executive actions and the effect they're having on climate is they are repealing a lot of programs, a lot of Biden-era and even some Obama-era regulations having to do with that were justified in terms of fighting climate change. But the reality is most of those old actions by the Biden and Obama administrations did not really do anything. For example, we are withdrawing from the Paris Agreement. President Trump, the first time he was president, as you may recall, he withdrew from the Paris Agreement. Biden joined it again. So we keep going back and forth whether we join it or not. But what does that actually do for the climate? The the theory is if we join the Paris Agreement, other countries are going to follow our lead and do a bunch of stuff to reduce emissions. But the evidence just does not support that. What we do in our country does not seem to affect other countries in terms of them wanting to emulate us in terms of that. And a lot of these programs are like that. We have seen substantial reductions in greenhouse gas emissions in the United States, but that's mostly because of market forces. It's because of fracking delivering cheap natural gas. It's because the price of solar and wind have come down. It's not because of these government programs. So the fact that they're being eliminated, I don't think people who are concerned about the climate need to freak out.
Well, part of the problem with global warming is it's global. And if we're the only ones playing along with the threat of penalties on the back end, then we're putting, undue stress on not just our climate, but our economy as well.
That's right. Yeah, it's a global phenomenon. U.S. is responsible for only about 10 to 15% of emissions. It's also a long-term phenomenon. It's supposed to play out over the course of decades and centuries. And that's important, I think, when it comes thinking about executive orders, is the presidency tends to it changes every 4 to 8 years, basically. And what you really need if you're going to try and address climate change is some long-term stability. You need to work out an agreement through Congress or something like that won't change every 4 years the way that these executive orders do. So really trying to expect a long-term global problem to be solved by a temporary local measure is just not going to work out.
Can we establish a long-term solution when something like the climate is always considered to just be more political than it is actual?
I think we can. One thing that gave me some encouragement is last year Congress actually passed what's called the Advance Act to try and advance nuclear energy in this country and reduce the permitting and regulatory cost on smaller nuclear reactors so we could do more of that. So there are things that can be done in terms of the legislative arena. But the biggest thing I think that can be done is try and open up the market so you can have market innovation for clean energy, for more efficient use of energy, and that will drive permanent emissions reductions in a way that an executive order or some sort of EPA regulation is probably not going to do.
Address emissions regulations within our nation or to set the table worldwide?
Well, the beauty of the market is if we figure out how to do something cheap, then we can export that to other countries. So it doesn't just affect us. This is another advantage of doing it this way, is if we come up with, say, a really cheap battery or, a way to produce energy that's clean, that doesn't have these greenhouse emissions, other countries are going to want to emulate that. And they will, because it benefits them and their bottom line. It's good for their economy. It means cheaper, as opposed to trying to get them to emulate us through costly regulation. People want to emulate stuff that makes their life better and cheaper, not stuff that makes things more expensive in life.
We're talking with Josiah Necley from the R Street Institute, senior fellow at the R Street Institute. We're talking about climate change, but we're also talking about energy. Josiah, I want to pivot to one particular paragraph within the Low Energy Friday column there,
Sure.
And that is the cost, the regulatory cost that we've seen dating back to George W. Bush, from Bush till now. If this doesn't open your eyes and drop your jaw, nothing will.
Yes. So the cost, what we've seen is that the cost of regulation has been growing by administration, and the Biden administration, it really just exploded. Just to take a single regulation, so the Biden administration, the so-called EV mandate, where they were monkeying with the mileage standards for cars, such that by 2030 you're going to have half of all car sales in the U.S. be EV sales. And last year, EV sales were 11% of all sales. EVs are growing in popularity, but getting to 50% in 6 years, that would be a huge thing. That alone was expected to cost $870 billion, I believe. So yeah, we've seen an amazing explosion in the cost of regulation in recent administrations, especially during the Biden administration. And some of that, I think, is just it's easy for a president to decide. Getting stuff through Congress is hard. I'm just going to try and go all out through the regulatory state, but things that are really costly to the economy, that's not a good way. I don't even think that's a good way to promote electric vehicles. I think that you could just end up making people mad and turning them off electric vehicles if people feel like they're being forced to buy them.
And that lends to a bigger conversation, Josiah, and that's as Americans, I feel like we're tired of being told we're part of the problem. Where, since the 70s, there have been plan after plan, item after item that we want to be part of the solution, but it feels like every effort we make towards fixing the climate, somehow things continually get worse.
Yes. So, it's a big problem. As you mentioned, it's a global issue, and our economy runs on energy, and the biggest sources of energy do produce greenhouse gas emissions. So, and so that is reflected in basically almost everything you do in life. So one strategy of trying to deal with that is that I think appeals to some on the environmental left is a kind of busybody strategy. It's telling you need to drive a certain type of car, don't eat so much meat, do this, do that. And I don't think that's a good one. I don't think that addresses the root of the problem, but also people don't like that, right? People want to be able to live their lives without having someone trying to micromanage and telling them what to do. And I think the key to dealing with this problem is through innovation, finding ways to produce energy in a way that's clean, that's efficient, that isn't going to require major sacrifices for people. But you just find better ways to do things. We used to get around on horses, and there would be a big a manure problem, a horse manure problem in the cities, right? That's an environmental problem. And when we didn't say, okay, everyone just has to walk everywhere. We came up with cars and solved that problem. So I think the same thing can happen going forward with, through innovation with energy, try and deal with this climate issue.
And therein comes the cost because to get new innovation, there's got to be a lot of R&D. R&D is where the cost end is, and it's not market friendly from jump. So how do you make that part sellable to the American people?
Yeah. Well, look, and to some extent, this is already happening, I would say. Look at Elon, look at Tesla. The Biden administration, they had a big program. They were going to build electric vehicle charging stations throughout the nation. They spent billions of dollars on it, and they ended up with, depending on who you talk to, it's 9 stations, it's 17 stations. It's a very small number for all the money that was spent. At the same time, Tesla has its own network of stations that it built out just for its own customers. And the Tesla, I'm not a Tesla stockholder or anything, but it's a very successful company. That happened through the vision of of one man and someone who saw like a market dynamic. That I think is the way forward. Stuff like that. There's a lot of potential Elons out there who, whether it's nuclear power, whether it's solar power, whatever it is, can come up with cheap, good ways to do things. And if you can do that, people want it. People are going to want that. People like the idea of having clean energy, but they don't want to pay an arm and a leg in order to do it. So if you can innovate and find ways to come up with cheaper, cleaner, better energy, people are going to flock to that.
A lot of hype and hyperbole. In the meanwhile, Josiah Necley bringing you a much more level-headed approach here. Josiah, I appreciate the couple minutes this morning. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Always. He's Josiah Necley from the R Street Institute, senior fellow over at the R Street Institute. Forgot to mention a graduate of the University of Texas. I meant to welcome him to the SEC. Here comes your money now. Mardi Prisons. would have the Art Street Institute on every day if I could. Featured, by the way. Featured story, Josiah Necley. Yeah. What happened to those billions dedicated to building recharging stations? Someone needs to investigate this. Debbie said, I heard the King's Ball was exceptional. I didn't get to go to the King's Ball. Byron says Gomez should limit her concerns to only to raids in her building because there's only murders in the building. Put on. I got it. I got it. it going. Download the free Talk 1073 mobile app. Find out what you missed each day at talk1073.com and watch us live on Facebook and the Talk 1073 Baton Rouge YouTube channel, all courtesy of Lake Urgent Care. Lake Urgent Care, walk-in care for minor illnesses and injuries. It is 7:56 at Talk 1073 FM WBRP. Thanks again to Josiah Necley from R Street Institute. I always love when we get a chance to talk with them. Such a good conversation, darn near every time. And yeah, he just knocked it out of the park right there. That was a fantastic segment. That'll be available on demand at talk1073.com. Also, courtesy of Lake Urgent Care, as soon as the show is over with. Coming up in our next hour, we've got Carolyn Hill. She's running for state senate in District 14. Going to join us at 8:15. And we've got Congressman Troy Carter at 8:35. A little DC Current presented by LABI. I'm going to dive back into a story that our news partners at Louisiana Radio Network had in just a second. But do need to ask you if you've got your lunch plans yet, which, of course, means I'm going to tell you about P.F. Chang's. You know where to find P.F. Chang's. They are in Town Center off of Corporate Boulevard. Look for the giant golden horse. And if you're making lunch plans with someone else today, hit up P.F. Chang's and get after that golden feast. It's a nod to Asian culinary tradition. Fried chicken and bubbles. They've got the fried chicken menu. It's inspired by South Korea's celebration of the season's first snowfall, which we can celebrate that now that we're thawed out. You'd mark a special moment or just by swinging by for lunch. But it symbolizes that first snowfall symbolizes renewal, romance, and connection. And the food that celebrates it is unbelievable. Whether or not you want to go with the whole pieces of chicken or the little individual bites or the Korean wings, whichever way you go, they've got you covered with the Golden Feast over at P.F. Chang's. Of course, if you wanted to stick with, some of the more traditional P.F. Chang's fare, like the Mongolian beef or the lettuce chicken wraps, they've got you covered on that front too. Either way you're doing it, you can't go wrong with P.F. Chang's in Town Center. Look for the giant golden horse. All right, I go from trying to sell you on chicken to talking about bird flu. That's probably not the most convenient of transitions there. Well, because it's causing egg prices to rise and shelves to empty out. You heard the story from Louisiana Radio Network. Nationally, egg prices have surged nearly 38% in the past year, with the average price of a dozen eggs getting up to $3.65 compared to just $2.14 a year ago. LSU Egg Center agent Will Strickland says the holidays also added to that price jump.
The holiday seasons for us are a time of usually higher egg demand. And so as we're rolling out of those holiday seasons, we're kind of trying to build back supply in our egg inventories.
Strickland says although Louisiana's commercial chicken populations remain unaffected, prices rose due to a shortage of egg-laying birds in supplier states like California or the Midwest.
The reason it's affecting consumers in Louisiana is that eggs are a commodity, right? And so when we lose inventory in other places, it affects our pricing even here.
It's not going to be anytime soon before we see a drop in prices because the process of replenishing the flocks is slow. Not unlike what Dr. Mike Strain, our ag commissioner, talks about when he talks about replenishing the crawfish harvest, how it takes more than one season. It's going to take a little bit longer than a couple weeks to get egg prices or to get supply back under control. As USDA protocols prevent contaminated products from entering the food supply, I'm sorry, let me restate that. We don't have to worry about what we're consuming for two reasons when it comes to eggs. Number one, you get the USDA protocols, but also cooking helps eliminate the virus.
I don't want anybody to be fearful when they do go to the grocery store. There are a lot of safeguards in place from the USDA and others to make sure that this doesn't enter our egg supply, as well as properly handled and cooked poultry and eggs are safe for consumption.
Hour 3 is next. Well, mistimed that. Keith says so no Rocky breakfast for a while. I've done that before. You ever done that? Drink a raw egg?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal.
Is it, you looking at like one egg or are you looking at multiple?
I've done 2.
Oof.
It's pure protein, man. Was that Carolyn on the phone?
I believe so. Looking for the, seeing where we're located.
So she can be in studio?
I guess so. I hope it was.
I sent her the address. I sent her press person the address.
Yeah, I guess she just wanted to confirm.
Oh. .806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing. We are starting off your third hour right back at 49 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. That entire news break, not one cough. Open up the microphone and there it is again, rearing its ugly head. Oh, I'm battling, y'all. We got a busy hour for you this hour. We are just a couple weeks away from a special election in the state Senate. State Senate seat 14 is up for grabs, I believe February 15th, I want to say. On that ballot, we've already spoken with Quentin Anthony Anderson. We got Carolyn Hill coming up in our next segment, as her hat is in the ring there as well. Those are 2 of the 3 candidates in the race. We're going to try and run down all 3 before it's all said and done. Also this hour, Congressman Troy Carter, a little D.C. Current, presented by LABI. But before we get to any of that, the good folks over at 5 Star Printing and Signs, every day they bring you this day in history. All right, John.
All right. Justin, the volume here. Okay. I'm not going to lie. I kind of sped through this one.
I hope you wouldn't lie. I sped through on this. Every day, no matter what's happening, just do not lie.
No, I tell the truth. Even when it hurts, Brian. Even when it hurts. I kind of sped through this one. Okay.
That's fine.
Starting off in 1985, I do apologize if there's anything before 1985 that I missed. But the charity single, We Are the World, recorded by Supergroup USA for Africa, which included Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie, Quincy Jones, Bruce Springsteen, Stevie Wonder, and other pop artists, was recorded today.
Can we look back on that and say it really wasn't that good?
Did you ever see the one? Did you see Bob Dylan in that footage? Yeah. It's like, that's how much effort you want to bring forth. It's like he's barely moving his lips.
I know.
Right? It's like... Hey, 1986, the following year, Space Shuttle Challenger explodes 73 seconds after liftoff from Cape Canaveral, killing all 7 crew members.
Okay.
Terrible.
Canaveral, by the way.
Canaveral.
You caught a misspelling on that one.
Sorry.
Man. All right, sound off on Facebook Live.
You remember it?
Yeah, we watched it in school. I was sitting in Mr. Brady's class.
Okay.
At Mandeville Middle. And when that thing exploded, I just, we're all just sitting there in complete disbelief when that thing exploded. And he was, my teacher was standing right behind me, and he put his hand on my shoulder, and he just started sobbing uncontrollably. And it's like, it hit me what actually happened, because it hit him what actually happened.
Yeah.
Like, as fourth graders, you're just watching, and you're like, what did I see? And like, the thought to process that there's no way we just witnessed that. And yes, we did just witness that. Part of what made Gen X feral was like, we watched that in real time.
The closest thing we would have be 9/11. That was kind of the same, because I wasn't born yet.
So much greater scale. Yes.
Right. I wasn't born yet for this one, but I can imagine that same feeling of just like, what do we do? What is going on right now?
Well,
and you're just a kid, right? I mean, how do you process this?
Okay, so the Challenger hardened us for the Iraqi War, the first Iraqi War, right? Where CNN broadcast the entire freaking war, right? So we watched the Challenger explode, and then we watched Baghdad get, just bombed to bejesus and back, and that hardened us for 9/11.
Yeah.
To watch the towers fall,
kind of build
and the number of souls that were lost on that moment as well. We've watched a lot of people die on TV.
Yeah. Oof. I don't know how healthy that is, but Oh, man. In 2003, in his State of the Union address, U.S. President George W. Bush announced his president's emergency plan for AIDS relief. A plan will go on to save 25 million lives worldwide as of January 2023.
Yep.
2017, U.S. President Donald Trump and Australian PM Malcolm Turnbull have a contentious phone call over a deal for U.S. to take 1,250 refugees. So,
I had 2 for today.
What you got?
One was on this day in 1813.
Okay.
Yeah, Pride and Prejudice was published today. Oh. And, so English classes for the rest of eternity would be doomed to have to read that as required reading. And on this day in 1989, a world record was set for the largest attended college basketball game. It was in the Superdome. It was between LSU and Georgetown. Another one that I was there for was this game.
These things. Yeah,
I was watching the Challenger explode in class, and then I was in the Dome to see Ricky Blanton ice down the Georgetown Hoyas. Now, there were more than 53,000 in attendance for that game. That record went on to be broken by Kentucky and Michigan State, who put 78,000 and change into Ford Field in 2003. So it was a record for a little while, and then wasn't anymore. 54,321. But yeah, when Blanton made that shot, and LSU beat Georgetown, and That was a fun
to be
game.
there, right? I mean,
to be there with like the entire bitty basketball league from Mandeville. That was, we had cheap seats too.
Oh, man.
We had cheap seats, but there was no bad seat when Dale Brown's Tigers were playing. Never a bad seat.
Yeah.
Which, we are forever blessed to have had him as a head coach.
That's incredible.
You got birthdays?
Yeah. Starting off with MASH star here, Alan Alda.
Yeah. Alan Alda's birthday today.
Yeah.
Not just from MASH, but went on and he's got an IMDb career,
he does.
resume that's longer than you can count, for sure.
Last movie I saw him, it was Tower Heist. I think it was Ben Stiller, Eddie Murphy.
Okay.
Another actor, Elijah Wood here. I have.
That's quite the step down from Alan Alda.
Oh,
but yeah.
And raising the bar. I don't know. I don't know how much higher we can go. Right.
Right.
I see rapper Rick Ross here as well.
Okay.
Anybody on your end?
Yeah, I'll tell you, if you're going to pitch us Rick Ross, then let's talk about pets that needed to be adopted. Sarah McLaughlin's birthday is today.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Longtime Spurs head coach Greg Popovich, it's his birthday today. Nicolas Sarkozy, president of France, he was born today. And I had two more for you. Give me 1 second as I move from one page to another. I'm sorry, I had one more for you. Former LSU quarterback, former Patriots quarterback, Tommy Hodson, was born on this day in 1967.
All right. Yeah. Moving on to deaths here. Look at this. Andre the Giant today.
What?
Died 1993.
Okay.
Let's see. Who else we got here? World leader Charlemagne.
Yep.
The Roman emperor.
Yeah. Charlemagne died on this day in 814.
Yep. What else you got over there?
I got a couple more. King Henry VIII died on this day in 1547. Sir Francis Drake in 1596. And one Irish poet, William Yeats, died on this day in 1939. And, of course, when we talked about the Challenger, that would mean Krista McAuliffe died on this day in 1986 as well.
Yes, unfortunately. National days today, Data Privacy Day. Just protect your data and privacy. Sure. And as we talked about, updating your iPhone.
Why not? All right. We are coming up on we're at 8:14 to talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. We got, we're going to step into the special election in just a second with Carolyn Hill next on Talk 107.3. You're right here. Move that out of your way. And we're always on Facebook Live. Do what? In its current form since 2019. I've been in radio since 2004. You're good to go? Yep. Which, by the way, have your, your press person or whatever, like whatever clips you want to pull and put back on your own. Oh, yeah, of course. Just tag me in it, by the way. Okay. No kidding. Okay. Awesome. God knows I give Daryl enough airtime. So. He's the best. I love him.
I love Daryl. That is my boy. He's like my number one.
He stirs the pot.
Yes. I talked to him last night.
Does not accept status quo, which I love.
Calling me last night with some stuff. I was like, okay, Daryl, I got it. I need to see you at 2 o'clock today. I said, okay.
818 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We are a little over 2 weeks away, just a couple weeks away from an upcoming special election for State Senate Seat 14. This is a seat that needs to be filled after the last congressional election. We've already had Quentin Anthony Anderson on. Now we have Carolyn Hill in studio. She is on the ballot as well. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I am doing great this morning. How are you this morning?
I am very well as well. I'm all nice and thawed out from last week, and it's still everybody's got the residual cough.
Yeah, that's it.
The residual tickle in the throat. So, let's dive in. Okay. All right, we're going to start off by getting to know you before we get to know a little bit more about your policies and what made you want to run for this seat. Okay. So tell us all about who is Carolyn Hill and what brings you here.
Well, yes, of course. I'm Carolyn Hill. I'm running for State Senate District 14. I'm originally from Miami, Florida. Yes. Okay. And I've been here for 23 years.
Okay.
The Southern University brought me to Louisiana. I came to Louisiana on a partial academic scholarship. Mm-hmm. And after my tenure at Southern, graduated, proud Jaguar, I ended up attending LSU to receive my master's. And so after my master's, go Tigers. So I have the blue and gold and purple and gold running through my blood.
Very nice.
So I had the opportunity to attend both universities here in the state of Louisiana. And then after finishing up my master's degree in social work, I ran for the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Yes.
Which is known as the Bessie Board.
Mm-hmm.
I served on the Bessie Board for 4 years, creating policies on education across the state of Louisiana and advocating for families within the 14 parishes that I represented. And EBR was one of the 14 that I represented. After my tenure on Bessie, I became a school social worker. So I work for East Baton Rouge Parish School System as a school social worker. So I'm on the front line. And I also have a political consulting firm where I help manage, oversee marketing, fundraise, strategy for individuals that's interested in becoming elected. And so that's been my journey here thus far in Louisiana. But one of the things I can truly say is that I love Louisiana. I am from Miami, Florida, but I've been here for 20 years, so this is home for me.
Right.
This is my home. This is where I spent all of my adult years.
When did it become home? Was there a moment?
I would say it became home my sophomore year at Southern University.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that because the culture, the people, the hospitality, they just embraced me.
Right.
My professors embraced me. My student body embraced me, and I just felt at home. Coming from a big city like Miami, I grew up very poor. I grew up in an urban community, and my parents, wasn't financially stable to send me to college. So my siblings and I knew our only way out of our situation was education. And so we just worked very hard, to make sure that we can provide a better life than what we had growing up as a child. And so when I came here, I can truly tell you, Brian, that the people showed me so much love. And I will always owe that to the state of Louisiana.
We got Carolyn Hill in the studio. She's running for State Senate in District 14. Okay, so that brings us up to what prompted you to want to get into this race?
Well, I've always been a community servant, even throughout my years here in the state of Louisiana. Always had the passion to give back because of my own circumstances. And so when I became aware that this seat was going to be vacant from former Senator, now Congressman Cleo Fields, my heart, something in my spirit just told me, it's your time. It's your season. People want change. And so I was still struggling a little bit. And then what really prompted me was when I drove through Senate District 14 and I saw the conditions of the district, especially in North Baton Rouge. When I saw the conditions of the people, the way that they're living, the vacant buildings, the abandoned houses, the homelessness, and the crime of with our teenagers and our youth, and my spirit just said, "It's your time, Carolyn. It's your time to get back in the position to continue to make a difference."
We're talking with Carolyn Hill about the upcoming state Senate race in District 14. Obviously, with the background in education, I'm assuming that's your number one priority. When you ask a candidate what are they going to prioritize should they be elected, I'm guessing education is your number one.
Yes, education is my number one on my platform. So you got it.
Where are we right now? If you could grade where Louisiana's education is right now, because traditionally we've been the bottom of the barrel. You lift up the barrel and see what's under it, and you'll find Louisiana. But Dr. Brumley's been doing, in my opinion, some remarkable work, and we've actually been moving up the ranks overall. Where would you grade us right now, and not just in terms of where we are, but where we're headed?
Well, I'll say this. I did some research nationally. Louisiana is ranked number 49th when it comes to education. Now, look, we're doing some great things in the state in regards to where we've come from to where we're going, but there's still a lot of work needs to be done. And I think that we need to prioritize early childhood education because that's a priority in regards to making sure that our young children have the resources and educational platform to be able to succeed. And if we get them at a very small age and we're able to formulate their mind and educate them, then we'll see even more progress. Mississippi has done a study, and we always compare ourselves to Mississippi. Mississippi has moved up tremendously in the education ranking because they have put a lot of funding into Head Start programs and early Head Start programs, and which is very critical. And so I've looked at that study, and I would like to create a task force, an educational task force, to see how we can mimic that in the state of Louisiana, or maybe not mimic it, but take some of their ideas and philosophy and implement it on a state level.
Well, and I mean, we are moving in that direction. We're picking momentum in that direction. We have the Steve Carter Literacy Initiative. Our third grade reading scores are really climbing, which, we're not there by any stretch of the imagination, but if third graders could continue in the fourth grade and they can continue in the fifth grade, how do you just keep the foot on the gas on that front? You mentioned on your website, you're a fan of parental choice. By giving parents the ability to choose where their children learn, we can create lasting opportunities, strengthen families, and build resilient communities. Expound upon that.
So, yes. When you say parental choice, a lot of people, oh my gosh, they're trying to take school money from the traditional public school. Look, I was educated in traditional public school. I value traditional public school. I work in a traditional public school. So when we talk about parental choice, we're talking about giving the parent the autonomy to make that decision for their child. So, for example, you may have a child that may have a diagnosis of dyslexia. Some schools may not offer those services, but then you have a school like Louisiana Key that focus on children with dyslexia. Why not give that parent that opportunity to allow that child to attend a school such that specialize in that actual diagnosis academically for that child, so that child can succeed? And so that's one of the things when I talk about parental choice. I mean, one of the things that we're seeing in the school district now, an increase of autism. Autism has increased tremendously. And so, I mean, we're getting educators to get certified in those areas, but they also have other programs out there that parents can also utilize the MFP dollars to transition their kids to where they can have those quality resources that they need. And so that's what I talk about when I look at parental choice, giving the parent the option. But what I like that the legislators have done, which was the Gator Scholarship, which was known under the general administration as vouchers. Now they call it the Gator Scholarship. And some people have their disagreements about it, but as a former Bessie board member, the reason why I had stated that I would support the bill is because it brings accountability. prior to the Gator Scholarship, the voucher program did not have any accountability. So meaning that kids can go to schools and we were not able to account, their growth. Yeah. Academically, we were not able to account where the dollars was actually being spent. Under the Gator Scholarship, it does that. And there is an assessment tied to the dollars to show the growth of the student. And so for me, I thought that was a great bill that was put together by Senator Rick Edmonds because it did show accountability, and that's what I'm about, accountability.
Got just a couple minutes left with Carolyn Hill running in District 14. Mm-hmm. I want to pivot from education to make sure we can touch on a couple of other ones. Okay. Public safety is a concern here in Baton Rouge. Yes. It's a concern in District 14. Yes. How do you make that translate from a state level down to where you see effects locally?
Right. So one of the things that I am looking at is creating a task force, a criminal reform task force, where I like to have law enforcement, community leaders, and just community activists on this task force because I can't do it alone. Mm-hmm. And we know that we're losing our children daily. I mean, we just had one of our state representative grandson that was just murdered on MLK Day, and this is a representative that's been advocating and supporting families that's been victimized of gun violence. And so we have to begin as a community. It starts at home. And so for me, I would like to create a task force where we can tackle this issue. And how we tackle this issue, Brian, we have to begin within our churches, within our communities, and with the individuals that live in those communities. And so we have to bring back that trust within the community with the law enforcement. We have to bring back those enrichment programs for children, tutorial programs to give them an outlet. But because if we don't, we're going to continue to lose our children, and we're going to continue to see crime increase because we know truancy is correlated to juvenile delinquency, and juvenile delinquency is correlated to crime.
We got a little bit over a minute to go with Carolyn Hill. Running for state senate in District 14. How's the campaign trail been? How's running for office been?
Well, I can tell it's been awesome. You have your moments, you go up and down, but the people on the campaign trail has been such a breath of fresh air. I mean, just listening to, look, I've been knocking on doors, and when I tell you, by the time I'm done, I'm going to have holes in the bottom of my shoe because that many doors I've been knocking on. But I wouldn't change it for the world because the people, they want change. Right? Mm-hmm. They want something different. They want a new, fresh breath air to where that they want somebody that's going to be a voice and that's going to be held accountable. And like I tell them, I work for you. You don't work for me. And so as your next state senator, I want you to hold me accountable. And I want you to be the persons to let me know if I'm on the right track or not. And so, but I've been having a very joyous time meeting the individuals in the district, and it's been fun.
Countdown is on. I mean, we're at January 28th right now, so it's, just under 3 weeks to go.
Yes.
So early voting, I believe, probably opens next week.
No, it opens this Saturday.
That's right.
February 1st. Yes.
Through next week. Yes. She is Carolyn Hill. Thank you so much for a couple minutes
this
morning. Here's news. Oh, I could have kept on going. Because at a certain point, I was going to have to ask if you're sure you're a Democrat.
Oh.
School choice, pro-public safety, like just did the whole...
Mm-hmm. And I tell people, for me, and I am. I'm a Democrat. I tell people that I'm a moderate Democrat on social issues, mm-hmm. and I am a conservative Democrat on fiscal issues. Mm-hmm. But the core of the issue is that I'm for the people, and that's the reality of it. Yeah. And I understand that we all have different philosophies, mm-hmm. but at the end of the day, we all can come together to come up with great solutions for Louisiana. Yes. And and for me, I'm running on change because we are so divided as a people. We're so divided as a country.
We are. And it's because we treat local politics like state politics, like national politics. Like it's just we lump it all into one thing. Yes. Which is why I didn't even ask you about your political affiliation during that segment. Mm-hmm. And I don't do that with anybody. Okay. That's because to me, on a statewide level, it's like let Washington worry about all that bullshit.
Thank you. Oh my. Yes,
yeah.
I mean, I'm with you on that.
Who can I work with?
That's it. Who can I work with?
Right.
And in order to get things done, we all got to work together. Mm-hmm. But I tell people this, Brian, is that we got to work together, but you don't have to compromise your values and your morals to get the things done. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
We might have same interests, but we may have different party affiliation.
Right.
It's about the people.
Yeah.
And when we can get to that, I think we'll have a better state and a better country.
Same.
You think we ever get there?
Yeah. Hey, kill the mics for a sec. Sorry, hopped out of my chair for a second. We are looking at temperatures getting up to the mid-60s today. We are going to get back down to about 52 tonight. Going to be cloudy skies for the foreseeable future, though no real chance of rain till Thursday. Like I said, today's high 65, tomorrow's high 72. Thursday, we're going to up to 79. The sun might peak out a little bit, but then Thursday night and Friday, it is going to rain. In fact, we got a 90% chance of rain, probably going to be in the overnight hours as it stands right now, unless that moves up a little bit. Friday's high 73. Saturday will top out at 70, and we're like mid-70s throughout next week as well. So, gross. Right now it's cloudy and 50 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. .838 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Waiting on Congressman Troy Carter to hop on board for a little DC Current presented by LABI. John, while we wait, you know what? We missed the National Day today.
What did we miss?
Today is National Plan for Vacation Day.
Hey, why not?
Yep,
huh?
and shout out to Megan with the Louisiana Travel Association. It says, we celebrate National Plan for Vacation Day every year on the last Tuesday in January to remind us to start planning our vacations and take time off from work and school. So National Plan Your Vacation Day.
Sounds
good. Coming back home from Washington Mardi Gras, one of the takeaways is the individual hospitality suites. You'll see other cities that are all posted up and trying to sell you on what they've got going on in their corner of the state. And, I always come home from that saying, I need to take advantage of that more often. Need to do the weekend trip to Monroe, the weekend trip to Lafayette, to the staycation part of that a little bit every here and there. So just one of the many takeaways is this National Plan Your Vacation Day. All right, joining us right now, 2nd District Congressman Troy Carter. Congressman Carter, how are you, man?
I am doing fantastic, brother. I hope you are as well.
I am. I'm all thawed out after last week's snowstorm. I do appreciate the use of the hospitality suite on Friday morning. We were posted up in the suite before y'all were. I believe y'all moved downstairs for your actual hospitality hours, but we were able to put on the show Friday morning thanks to your hospitality.
Well, and I'm sorry that I was, as being chairman this year, I was running 6 ways till Sunday. So I hate that I did not get a chance to see you, spend a little time. But it turned out to be an incredibly successful 76th Washington Mardi Gras. Louisiana was in full effect, even though so many of our friends and family members had to brave the frigid snow.
Yeah.
Most made it, some did not, but those who did had a grand time.
Yeah, absolutely, and to watch the people roll in. I got there on Thursday, and I was like, I'm so late, I'm getting there Thursday, but I was actually early because a lot of people rolled in like midday to late on Friday.
That's exactly right, and some didn't make it at all, but I will tell you, the majority did, and kudos to the brave souls that were determined to get here, and I'm sure King Rico and Queen Kendall greatly appreciated their efforts to come and see what was a beautiful beautiful queen and a fantastic king to reign with a perfect motto of duty, honor, Louisiana, which really denotes the whole spirit of their reign, which was to recognize men and women in uniform, a theme that was created by our King Rico Alvendia, which is so appropriate given the circumstances of how great our country is because the freedoms we enjoy, because the prices that are paid by the men and women in uniform.
I'll echo that 100%. We got Congressman Troy Carter on with us. This is DC Current presented by LABI. Congressman, we've been unpacking Washington Mardi Gras with a number of different folks yesterday and today. Just from a congressional standpoint, as a congressman, what does your Washington Mardi Gras look like? We were in Congresswoman Letlow's suite Friday afternoon. She was talking about just the meeting after meeting after meeting. Walk me through a little bit of the highlights of what you were able to get done or, able to get on the books as a result of this year.
Well, it is And she's right. It's meeting after meeting after meeting because in the middle of Washington Mardi Gras, remember, we still have to be members of Congress.
Yes.
We still have committee meetings. We still have to vote on the floor. We still have constituent services. In the middle of that, we literally have Louisiana converging on the nation's capital. So in the middle of all that, we are managing a major party. We're managing it, particularly in my case this year, as I was chosen this year to be the chairman of Washington Mardi Gras, which has the responsibility of not only picking the king and queen, but also managing the economic development luncheon, organizing its speakers, and putting together a format. And we did a little bit of a twist this year. We changed it up, and it proved to be very, very successful. We had a virtual potpourri of things that made the economic development luncheon even more exciting than before. We had the minority leader, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, as the keynote speaker. We had economic development presentations by Kalisha Garrett. We had the Governor's Office of Economic Development give the forecast and great news about Louisiana. And then we finished the whole thing with an incredible presentation by Roger Goodell and Drew Brees to talk about the Super Bowl and how much they love Louisiana and how much they love being in New Orleans and what a great city it is for the Super Bowl. So Washington Mardi Gras it's a party with a purpose. It brings business leaders and people, academia, nonprofit, from all over the state of Louisiana to come and meet with legislators, meet with members of Congress, meet with cabinet members to discuss the needs of Louisiana, but also demonstrate the culture, the history, the beauty of everything Louisiana.
We got Congressman Troy Carter on with us. Yeah, when I heard Hakeem Jeffries' name as the keynote speaker, I was thinking, man, you're talking about, and I know you're a Democrat, but you're in a Republican-heavy state. How do you make Hakeem Jeffries sellable? Oh, yeah, put Roger Goodell on the same dais, and Jeffries becomes a hero.
And let me tell you something, man. The only person in that entire 2.5-hour presentation that got a standing ovation, Hakeem Jeffries.
Unreal. Yeah, well, it wasn't going to be Goodell, I'll tell you that.
But Hakeem Jeffries and an overwhelmingly Republican crowd proved that our parties do not define us. Our love for America, our love for Louisiana defines us, and it should. And when he presented the case of the adversities of our history and how we as Americans have overcome them, we've overcome them working together, not in separate silos.
Yeah.
Regardless of your party affiliation, we have a responsibility to the people. And he delivered it in such a way that was so impactful that Republicans and Democrats alike stood in a standing ovation. I was very, very proud of.
Yeah, and there's a good chunk of leaving your party at the door when you hit the Washington Hilton. It's undeniable, Congressman. It's when you see folks in the hallways, personal relationships mean a heck of a lot more than the rest of it, because we are Louisiana first. So
that's exactly right. And in the luncheon, I said today in this luncheon, we are neither Republican nor Democrat. We are Louisiana.
We got Congressman Troy Carter on with us. I got to pivot here because we got a lot of business to cover. It's been a minute since you and I have had the chance to talk. We just haven't crossed paths at the right time with the. I know I bumped you last week for the governor. My apologies on that one. But we were in the middle of a blizzard, so we couldn't talk business last Tuesday. I kind of want to recap, if we could, take a minute to walk us back through the Social Security Fairness Act. What was your role in getting that through over the finish line?
Well, let me tell you, I was one of the original co-authors of the bill. It was something that I've talked about during my campaigns. It was almost in every gathering, somebody or somebodies brought this to our attention. The failed policy that has penalized so many of our school teachers, police, fire, federal employees, state employees, people that have had their retirements truncated because of an ill-fated piece of legislation or policy. So as one of the original co-authors, I worked tirelessly to advance this, but I want to give due credit to Garrett Graves, who, in my estimation, really gave a heroic effort to bringing this to a floor vote and getting it over the goalpost. While I'm proud to have been an original co-author, proud to have worked closely on the floor and throughout the community and through the Democratic side of this equation, Garrett Graves, given credit where it's due, was an incredible leader in helping us get this done. And so this is, again, a demonstration that Republicans and Democrats working together can address issues that have plagued our community for many, many years, like this one. This Social Security Fairness Act is something that is going to change people's lives. It gives them the opportunity to fix what has been broken and has financially crippled so many of our people. So this is a huge win for Louisiana. It's a huge win for the country because we know that this is something that's going to impact a lot of people. The Social Security Fairness Act passed the House in November with a vote of 327 to 75.
Yeah.
That is a strong vote of bipartisanship. It passed the Senate with a vote of 76 to 20. Again, a strong vote of bipartisanship, which is demonstrative of the fact that when we sit to the table long enough and we're willing to listen to each other, we can come up with ways of fixing things together instead of getting caught up in an RRD scenario. Listen, I'm a proud Democrat. I make no apologies for it. I respect my friends who are proud Republicans, but sometimes we can spend so much time on R&D that we forget the P, people.
We got Congressman Troy Carter with us for just a couple more minutes. This is DC Current, presented by the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. All right, looking ahead to the 119th Congress, Congressman Carter, committee assignments. Tell us where you're headed for this year.
You know, I am so incredibly humbled and honored to have been named to the Committee on Energy and Commerce for the 119th Congress. One of the oldest and most expansive as it relates to jurisdiction of any committee in the United States Congress. It is arguably one of the most powerful committees. It's the first time we've had a Democrat to serve on this committee in nearly 20 years. The first time someone's been from New Orleans on this committee, and even longer. It has jurisdiction over everything energy related, everything healthcare related, everything communication, telecommunication, FCC, FEC, all these things that are just incredibly important to our community. And I'm proud to be the only member from Louisiana to serve on this very powerful and important committee. Equally as important is also selected to serve on the House Democratic Steering Committee, which is the committee that chooses who serves on every committee, which is awesome because myself on the Democratic side and my dear friend and colleague Julia Letlow on the Republican side are the two Louisiana members that serve on this powerful steering and policy committee. She representing the Republican side, I representing the Democratic side, again representing that Louisiana is punching above its weight. And I'm very, very proud of being able to serve in that capacity. Additionally, I was also appointed deputy whip on the House floor, which is also something I'm very, very proud of. Got a lot of hats to wear this Congress. And then lastly, but certainly not least, I was elected to be the first vice chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, which is one of the oldest and largest caucuses in Congress. Again, very proud of each of those. So honored to represent the people of Louisiana, and honored that my colleagues have thought enough to appoint me to these powerful positions.
He is Congressman Troy Carter. We always appreciate the time, sir. Looking forward to the next visit already. I thank you for hopping on board again.
God bless you, my friend, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, absolutely. We're at 8:51 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Blew right past your money now. My apologies for that. I wanted to talk about this committee assignments because it's going to set the table for where we're going with every conversation we have with the congressman over the next couple months. Energy and commerce is going to be huge. Subcommittees on telecommunications within that. It covers so much ground. So we'll pick that back up at a later time. Right now, we got to take a break. When we come back, we will close it out with the outside end next on Talk 107.3. We'll just go ahead and break it and close it out. I will tell you this. Ooh, maybe I shouldn't.
Okay. Go ahead.
People speak so highly of him on a one-on-one basis.
Yeah.
Forget party, and I mean he'll make a lot of votes that'll anger Republicans.
Right.
But as a man,
yes,
like he's very, very highly regarded.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean that's the point, right? I mean, where you put the person before the party, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we want to see.
I've got a lot of housekeeping to do when we get back in. Crap. I got 2 more promos to read. I got a live read to do. There's 2 birthdays that I wanted to hit before hitting the outside in. So, yeah. I'm going to skip the Mondays with the Mayor. I'm just going to do women's basketball. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 7 promos I'm supposed to hit every day. And that's just redonkulous. Coach Kim Mulkey and the LSU Tigers host Oklahoma Thursday at 6 p.m. Then Sunday at 1 p.m. they're going to host Mississippi State. Patrick Wright and Shaida Williams will be on the call for both of those games, and you can hear the Tigers all season long on your home for LSU women's basketball. Talk 107.3 FM. Man, thanks again to Congressman Troy Carter for another fantastic segment. I got to tell you, and I probably should have brought this up while he was on with us, I know he's not going to want the pat on the back, but the level to which people speak about him when he's not around is unbelievably admirable. As a Democrat, he's not going to vote the way Republicans are going to want him to vote a lot, but just as a man, the way he carries himself, his name came up a lot while I was in Washington, D.C. People asking about the segment, asking about, oh, you did your show from Carter Suite, blah, blah, blah. He's remarkably highly regarded. And I really, really value these Tuesdays because having access to him when the majority of his district is New Orleans, but it does snake its way up there to Baton Rouge. I appreciate the conversations. I love when we can do battle. I love when we agree, but I really, really love when we go back and forth. So I just shout out to Congressman Carter. Speaking of shout outs, John, we missed a couple birthdays today.
All right, what we got?
I know. Publisher of the Hayride, Scott McKay.
Oh, okay.
It's his birthday today. And from the Louisiana Business and Industry Show and the TJC group, happy birthday to Tim Johnson as well.
Hey,
so,
birthday.
I didn't want the show to go off with those two getting missed. Before we get you to the outside end, got to remind you about the folks over at Parish Construction and Roofing. Check them out online. Parishbuilt.com. Parishbuilt.com. Do business with someone you know. That gets exemplified throughout the process. Do business with someone you know. It means do business with someone that when you have a question, you can call them. It means they're going to call you to make sure you don't have any questions. In fact, wrapping up my experience with Parish Construction and Roofing, they put the new roof on my house. Unbelievably happy customer on this end. But I had a conversation with Zach from Parish the other day, making sure I understood, like, okay, here was all the totals on the one side versus, what was billed on the other side versus here's how insurance is paying for this, insurance is paying for that. You walk through every step of the process because you're doing business with someone you know. You're doing business with someone you can call, someone you can text. Someone's going to call you and text you back. It's just, it is an amazing process. 364-1007, 364-1007, or check them out online at parishbuilt.com. All right, abbreviated outside in. Let's go. Starting off in New Orleans, now that the Super Bowl is set, several airlines have announced new flights into the Big Easy for the big game. JetBlue, Southwest, United, American, and Frontier Airlines have all added more flights into Louis Armstrong Airport. By the way, if you're flying BTR, you're only an hour away from the big festivities as well. Moving over to St. Landry Parish, the school district there is moving forward with a new policy regarding the use of pronouns and legal names, which is set to go into effect soon. The policy requires school employees to address students according to their sex assigned at birth or legal name as listed on their birth certificate. That is going to do it for us. Moon Griffon is up next. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe before you get out of here. We'll see you tomorrow. Closing out in Lafayette. I'm just going to roll this one over to tomorrow's because it's a story that doesn't hit until next week anyway. Just for the Facebook and YouTube audience, the Clydesdales are coming to Lafayette. Yay! Voice held up. How about that? All right. I'm working on like 6 different things for tomorrow.
Sheesh.
I know. Oh, I can tell you this as a result of Washington Mardi Gras. Not tomorrow, but the following Wednesday, every Wednesday at 8:35, Congresswoman Julia Letlow going to be picking up a bonus DC Current, presented, of course, by the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. But Congresswoman Letlow says, I'm not going to be able to make it every week. I'm like, if you can make it most weeks, the business of the nation obviously always comes first, right? But so it's going to be Tuesday, 8:35, Carter, Wednesday, 8:35, Letlow. I'm still efforting my best to get a hold of Cleo Fields and his people to make sure that we can make, if I can get 3 DC Current segments out of a week and we could talk to our representation that frequently, I mean, that's going to serve us so well as far as, keeping tabs on what the people we vote for are doing. That's what we're trying to do here. All right, guys, we're out of here. We'll see you tomorrow. Later.